What's up, guys? How we doing? So, Alien Romulus, directed by Fede Alvarez, starring Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson, and Archie Renault. This was easily one of my top most anticipated movies of the year. Not only because I'm a huge Alien fan, but Fede Alvarez. When I heard that he was going to be attached to it directing, I mean, it's just instant hype. He previously did Evil Dead, the 2013 remake, and Don't Breathe back in 2016. And the Evil Dead remake that he did is easily my favorite Evil Dead movie of all time. Everything he brought to it, specifically the gore, I mean, it was just perfect. And I think it's also perfect to make an Alien movie. And I'm also just a huge Alien fan in general. The first Alien is easily one of my top movies of all time. Aliens is good. It's a little too 80s, a little too cheesy for me, although it does have some really good one-liners. In the video game, Alien Isolation, oh my god. Easily one of my favorite video games of all time as well. Scariest game I've ever played. Fucking insane. It's also one of the hardest I've ever played too. I just finished it like 2 months ago. I might revisit it again here soon, but it's tough and it's long. I've also honestly never seen Alien 3 or Resurrection. I will watch those very soon. But Prometheus and Covenant, both good movies, both solid movies. I just think Prometheus specifically tries to do too much. It tries to add too much lore with the engineers and the space jockeys, and none of it really pays off for me. So that I've always thought those were good, but just tries to do a little bit too much. Now, starting off with the positives for this movie, I mean, this movie just right off the bat looks gorgeous. It looks amazing. Everything from the set pieces, the set design, inside the spaceships, the xenomorphs, the facehuggers, both practical, which I love. It will always beat CGI no matter what you're doing. And just everything on the colony, in the first act of the movie, the first scene that we get, it's been terraformed by humans, and everything it looks so tangible, it looks so real. Much like Dune does, with just sucking you into their world, I think this movie does a way better job than the other movies have. Because the other movies mainly, take place in a spaceship in space, like the Nostromo, or they go to a moon or a planet here and there, but it's usually isolated and it's just deserted. So I really enjoyed seeing what they did in the first part of this movie. And the sound design of this movie, I mean, god damn, this shit is crazy. It's so fucking good. The sound design, the score, whenever like a super intense scene is going on, there's this like siren that goes off, and it's just got you on the edge of your seat, like you're feeling every moment, and it's fantastic. It's wonderful, and this might be some of the best sound design I've ever heard in a sci-fi horror movie like ever. It was just fantastic. And I think Kaylee Spaney is also fantastic in this movie. She's a great actress. She's a great final girl in this. She's no Ripley, but I don't think anyone's gonna ever match the levels that she does in the first few movies. But she's great. She's intense when she needs to be. She's emotional. She's just wonderful. I also really liked the android in this movie. He's supposed to be Kaylee Spaney's brother, because I guess her family found him in the trash long ago and raised him up with her. And there's a specific scene where he kind of switches because he's a good guy, and then something happens and something in his android computer brain switches, and he becomes sort of like a side villain. And that was really interesting because he goes crazy. He means business. Like, he's not fucking around at all. So I liked that a lot. And easily the biggest positive for this movie is the last 20 minutes. I mean, this is when Fede Alvarez decides to finally dial it all the way up to 10. He goes batshit fucking crazy, off the wall nuts, and I loved every second of it. I think at least halfway through, maybe the last hour, should have been this intense and had this character that they bring in, because it would have been a perfect movie. I would have 10 out of 10, would have been my favorite movie of the year, but I'll get into it right after this. But a lot of the scenes prior are just underwhelming, not it. Now on to the mixed and negative aspects to this movie. There's a specific character that they bring in that just absolutely did not need to be in the movie. It takes you out of it. There's no fucking point in having him. It adds nothing to the story. The CGI that they do is just awful, it's distracting, and it just makes no sense. I don't understand what they were thinking. It was just awful. I hated it. And a lot of the characters, besides Kaylee Spaney's, who I've said was fantastic, I didn't really like any of them. That one dude, like I was saying earlier, who was a dick, the actor, I just didn't like him. And also, what really surprised me was the fact that this movie wasn't bloodier. Um, Especially with having someone like Fede Alvarez attached to it and what he did with the Evil Dead remake. I was expecting this to be little more crazy, a little more gory. I am a gore hound, so I might be a little biased to it. But this movie was kind of on the tamer side, and I was surprised, especially with how the last movie was, Covenant. That was easily the bloodiest, goriest movie in the franchise. So I was just expecting a little more. Like, I just think there's so much you can do with the kills in this, with between the xenomorphs and the chest burst scenes. There was only one of those, and you pretty much see all of it in the trailer. There's really nothing else that happens after it cuts in the trailer. There's basically no blood. It's underwhelming. It's not scary. It's not intense. And I was just very surprised by that. Like, we always did the same kind of kills. The xenomorph uses its tail to stab through your chest, or it'll use its second mouth and pop out and stab you. And I think that there's just so much more you can do creatively. I mean, this is like the seventh movie in the franchise, so we've kind of all seen it before, and they just keep doing it. And I think there's just so much more that you can do with it. Like, I know it's sci-fi, thriller, some of the movies are action, but I always have thought of it with having slasher elements to it. Most of the movies, it's a group of people, they're all isolated, and they're being taken out pretty much one by one by either a xenomorph or a facehugger or some sort of other alien creature. And I want creative kills. And now, like how I was saying before with how great the last 20 minutes is, the second act specifically is just, it's super underwhelming. There's, like I said, there was intense moments, but they're very fleeting. They don't last that long. And like this one scene, they're trying to escape. They're trying to creep by all these facehuggers that are in a room. I mean, there's dozens of them, and it's at first you're like, holy fuck. And so they like crank up the temperature in the room to match their body temperature, because that's how the facehuggers see you. And they're creeping by, and then this dude, the main dude, just starts talking on his phone to this girl, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, you can clearly hear her and hear him what he's saying. If you're trying to be quiet, I don't understand that. It makes no sense. But yeah, guys, so overall, I mean, this movie is good. It's really good. It's definitely worth seeing in theaters. I think if you're a big Alien fan, I think you're gonna still like it, really enjoy it. There are just those few things that just keep it from being a 10 out of 10 for me. And I really wanted it to be a 10 out of 10. I wanted it to be my favorite movie of the year, but I just can't get past those specific things. And I know I keep harping on it, but those last 20 minutes, man, is just some of the best shit I've ever seen in a horror sci-fi movie. It was just fantastic. I can't harp on it enough. It was so fucking cool. But yeah, guys, those are some of my thoughts. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.